Perfect. Hey, everybody. Nick Beatleston from Good Impacts here. Sorry about the delay this morning. We had a couple of technical issues on our end. So we probably will run a little past 10:30. If anyone does need to hop off, we are recording and this will be available later on YouTube. Yeah. So welcome to Life, Liberty, Beaches, and Progress, an ethical brand with Bob Sutherland. This is an ethical entrepreneur webinar presented by Impacts. We're guiding ethical entrepreneurs along their business journey. We provide a number of different services for ethical entrepreneurs and mission-driven businesses. We also work with a number of small and mid-sized nonprofits. So if you have any interest in learning more about that, please visit goodimpacts.com. Housekeeping rule. We're going to go ahead and keep everybody muted for the duration of our conversation. Yeah, everybody's video is also turned off. We love you, but we really don't want to see you eating breakfast. So if you do have any questions along the way, please feel free to enter them into the Q&A or the chat functions at the bottom of your Zoom screen. And this webinar is being recorded, like I mentioned earlier, for future use. Real quick bit about me so we can get to the much more interesting Bob Sutherland. I started Good Impacts in 2018. It was originally Sustainable Development Solutions with the goal of supporting ethical businesses as champions for change. I have a background in communications, journalism, nonprofit work, supply chain development, and then yeah, I spent a couple of years with the Army. Much more interesting, though, is Bob Sutherland's story, Cherry Republic. The real story always gets truncated to these couple of bullet points, and I think it's way more interesting than that. But essentially, it started with a T-shirt back in the late 80s, then cookies, then a garage, then a building. Today, lots of buildings, 7 locations, nationwide distribution. And what we're going to talk about today is the really impressive amount that Cherry Republic has been able to give to charitable causes. Yeah, Bob, I'm sure you probably other stuff in the meantime.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think that's about the most important thing. And from the first product we did, those cookies, we put, on a part of all profits goes to the Leelanau Conservancy. Back then there was, in those first couple of years, money profits, but I kept believing that those days would come. And the Conservancy kept believing too, and let me continue to put their name on the cookie.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So I think for a lot of organizations, a lot of businesses, they have these aspirations of doing good things, but they say, we'll worry about that when we actually have something to give. Yeah, why bake that in at the very beginning, even before you had money to contribute to local causes?
There is something to that about, making that conscious decision that we're going to be philanthropic from the start, give. And it was a struggle when you try to do it at the end of the year, like, okay, I've got to put my profits and divide it out at the end. Mm-hmm. So after spending some time with Yvon Chouinard, it became, he just said, no, Bob, he goes, start at the beginning of the year, put it right into your budget. And he says, and 1% of all your sales, just give away, and it could be as, simple as raising your prices 1%. And that made it so much easier for me. It's our number one way of giving now is just take 1%, put it into our budget at the beginning of the year. And it's been the platform for all of our other giving since, because now we do a 1% tariff and we do a roundup, and we do $1 if you buy this bag and that bag, and ultimately, what are we? We're just a little. It's almost like a Girl Scout, cookies sale company, where just like the Girl Scouts are just doing this to raise money, we're doing the same thing, selling cherries to raise money for good causes for Michigan.
You really glossed over the part where you spent time with Patagonia's founder.
Yeah.
You have to tell me a little bit more about
So I was chairman of the groundworks at that time. And so we had Yvon come in and speak, to all our members. And so I got to introduce him, and he came for a couple extra days. And so during those days, he had just started doing the 1% himself. And so he was excited about it, and he kept talking to me about, well, you should do this too. So while I was showing him the sand dunes, he was, talking about, we were just talking business and philosophies. And he really left a good impression in my mind. And I gave him one thing too. I'm proud, he's taught people how to ice climb and rock climb, like Brokaw and Tom Brokaw and John Krakauer, the writer.
Yeah.
And but I taught Yvon how to dune climb, and he talks about that today.
Yeah, I'd say that's the most important thing he's learned. Forget all the technical climbing. The dune, it's got to be the most joyous.
Yeah, he did. He got up at the top and he does a 360 and goes, "This is beautiful." It was cool.
I think it takes a lot to knock that guy's socks off. So that's pretty good to hear.
Yeah.
So you started Cherry Republic at a time when the cherry industry was kind of taking a hit. There were a lot of other faster, quicker dessert options out there. Baking wasn't as popular at that point in our history. But you realize the versatility of a cherry. Its more subtle flavor profile meant that it wasn't just for dessert. It could be used in all sorts of different food products. And this was a well-established industry, but nobody figured this out before you. What do you think were the traits or the characteristics that led you to make this observation and subsequently build an organization around it?
Yeah, when I started, the dried cherry was just invented and just coming into people's vocabulary and use in the kitchen, and so I jumped on that bandwagon and was amazed, as we were starting to make combinations where we put in this dried cherry with other flavors, and dried cherries in that original cookie, the oats and the white chocolate was a big hit, and then mixing that with nuts and then putting chocolate on it, and pretty soon we're doing jams, but not just cherry jam. Pretty soon mixing it with almond, because the cherry is a more subtle flavor, which is somewhat a curse, because it's hard to sell cherry jam just in the store without tasting it. When you go by and strawberry, everybody can imagine what strawberry tastes like, but a cherry is more subtle. It's harder, so it's harder for people to pick off the shelf. I get around that by sampling everything in our store, but because of its subtlety, it's really great for blending with other flavors, and because of its subtlety too, it's that flavor. It can go spicy, it can go savory, sweet, of course, a sour, and then that great Japanese word umami, where it just is rounding, mouth rounding, that nice finish that cherry can give you. So all of that I've learned over 20 years,
Through lots of tasty trial and error.
That's right.
So back at the beginning, you were trucking around northern Michigan, flip-flopped and fancy free, hawking shirts and cookies out of the back of a trunk. At a certain point, like we talked about, there was a brick and mortar, then there were a few buildings. And I imagine things started to get more serious over time. What were the things that kept you going and kept you moving forward as the leader of this fledgling but really developing organization?
Yeah, I loved, first, I'm committed to the cherry industry and want to sell as many cherries and make all the farmers and everyone in the industry as successful as possible, so that was a big driver. I love Northern Michigan. So talking, through Cherries, I get to talk about Northern Michigan and all the great things up here. So that was a big driver is bringing more and more visitors up here. And then, finally, it's just, I love the creative process of a business. So everything on our flagship in Glen Arbor, those gardens and the rocks and uh, the buildings, that's all my own creative, pursuits, working with architects and going up to the UP over 7 weekends and collecting all these gray rocks, putting them on pallets, having trucks ship them back down and then placing them in just the right spots. So all of that creative, to the label designs, to working on products and flavors, it's just a creative pursuit. And this is just an expression of, me laying down at night, dreaming,
So it's definitely a labor of love then, huh?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
So when consumers look at Cherry Republic now, we see a fully formed organization, and we see those values really baked in, that life, liberty, and pie.
Pie.
Thank you, beaches. I almost started going down the Jeffersonian version. Yeah, life, liberty, beaches, and pie. Those are a really integral part of the organization. And I think there are a lot of companies that may have that at the beginning, and then over time, all the challenges of growth, some of those initial ethos are kind of pushed out unintentionally, but yeah, they don't make it. So how have you kept those an integral and important part of Cherry Republic through its growth?
Yeah, our values is, the driver, and, through this pandemic, life, liberty, beaches, and pie, those values, each of them stand for, powerful things. The one that is the most important probably to everybody in the company is pie, our generosity. We gratefully share the earth's abundance, and just cherries are abundant, but we abundantly sample and give our money away to organizations. And through all this growth, and through more and more employees and more accountants and financial people, it is tough to keep, doing that level of giving and keep those values strong. But, we've gone through really tough years where, there was a year where we had a wipeout. A frost killed all the cherries, in Northern Michigan. And if there was any time where we might have thought, well, maybe we just won't be able to give as much away this year. No, our staff, the accountants, and everyone are so committed to our values that there was no doubt that we were going to make sure that we gave, as much as we did years past. And somehow, because of that ethos, that year when we didn't have any cherries was our best year ever.
Mm.
So, and this year, with the pandemic, we are looking like we're gonna have a great year, and we've overcome every challenge and kept our doors, open and as safe as possible. And it looks like we're gonna have another really good year. And it's those values that every person that comes in their first interview gets, we tell those values, we explain them. And if we see that a candidate come work for us leaning forward and excited, then that person is probably someone we're going to hire. If they're leaning back and just as interested, we'll probably look for another employee.
So what do you think Cherry Republic would look like, or would it even exist today if, when there was that bad harvest, when there was a choke point or a difficult time, you decided, we can lop the pie off. This is not an important enough value for us. What would the company look like today if there was no pie?
God, I think, man, that's a good question. I don't know if I would want to be around. So it would be a company without me, and what's that, because, yeah, there would be some other employees, and it would get I'm sure once pie was lapped out, pretty soon the sampling is, cut, and pretty soon, some of the, like we just ran through a Cherry Cheer campaign through the pandemic where for a while it was every day we sent out a gift to someone in need or someone that was doing great things that deserved to be rewarded. And, we're still doing that, twice a week. Those kinds of things that just make us and connect us to our customers, we have a terrific group of customers and people that we're just so tight with, and it's because of the giving, and it's because of all these programs, that we do that really gets us the most engaged in them too.
Yeah, I think for a lot of businesses, their philanthropic giving or their community engagement, volunteerism, when times get tight, that's something that's considered a budgetary line item that can be scrapped. Um, and
Hmm.
yeah, I wonder how many folks are able to get it back once it goes away.
Yeah, that's so true. You know, uh, there, and it's starting your budget out at the beginning of the year and making sure that it sets in there. That giving is just as important as paying your landlord.
That 1% model, and obviously Patagonia went on to be a founding member of 1% for the planet. That that makes so much sense because it's easy, it's straightforward. You have that baked in. You don't have to worry about, is it a percentage of your profits at the end of the year? Is it, what is it? It's already calculated.
Yeah, and we do something beyond that. Like we give away that 1% right off the top of our every sale, and then when people come in our stores, we do a refundable tariff on that sale. So the average sale in a store is $25. So there's a 25-cent tariff on top of that, or tax on top of that sale. And we let people, know with the receipt, and there's signs around the store. And, every once in a while, somebody will come back and go, I want my 25 cents back. But the majority of the people will happily, give that small amount, and knowing that it's going to farmers, and that goes to putting solar up in their, somewhere on their farm, so it can be 100% renewable power, or building fences for them and helping them just be as entrepreneurial as possible. It also helps to preserve their farms. But that's been a great program we've been doing for 15 years, and we've probably given $1 million away of, a little quarter here and a quarter there, and on and on.
Yeah, it's a testament to how much over the lifetime of an organization those little amounts, uh, yeah, they really add up. And I love the 25-cent tariff model that the Cherry Republic has, because it's posted everywhere if consumers are paying attention. They know that they're paying this amount. They also have the freedom to say, no, I don't want to support this. But it does, rather than, would you like to round up your purchase or would you like to add more money? This is, we've already done it for you. You have the freedom to opt out, but I like how you guys have flipped that on its head. And I'm sure that's generated way more money than, would you like to add 25 cents for farmers in our region?
Yeah, it takes that awkwardness out of that, at the front. It's slows it down. If we had to ask every time, we couldn't keep it up. It would be just too hard on the staff. There's so many other things we'd rather talk about, and our customers would rather talk about. And over 25 cents, it's not that important. And it really comes down, though, that it's just another way of feeling like I'm partnering with our customers and making this a better world.
So you talked in your really great TEDx Detroit talk, which I would highly recommend everybody check out, about how you found it more beneficial to appeal to people's hearts than their heads. You don't just talk about the health benefits of cherries or combating environmental degradation. Your messaging is much more focused on again, those core values, but also it's fun, it's playful. Um, yeah, what would you say to social entrepreneurs that are overly focused to the exclusion of everything else in their messaging about the social impacts of whatever product or service they sell?
Boy, I would say that, if you look at the leaders in the advertising world and, the leading brands, they keep it light and fun, and it seems like every time the Cherry Public tries to take ourselves seriously, we fall flat on our face. So we are very humble and light and fun. We don't talk that much about our donations. We joke around. I mean, our key saying at Cherry Republic is, the owner is a simpleton. Selling more than one fruit would be too complicated. And that captures Cherry Republic perfectly, because it just, uh, I mean, we're all on vacation up here, and that's when most people see Cherry Republic, or in at Christmas time, and they do come to us for a smile and a laugh and a lifted spirit, and that's a way deeper, better connection, and that's a heartfelt connection. We think that we humans, make our decisions with our head up here, but truly, every major decision and most of the minor decisions are made with our heart. From who we decide to marry, to what school we decide to go to all of those decisions are heartfelt decisions. We're good at listening to our heart, and our heart is really strong in our body. It's the messages it sends out to the rest of the body are like 10 times stronger than what the brain messages are. And also the heart radiates like 3 to 6 feet out beyond the body, while the brain only radiates maybe 8 to 10 inches.
It's an incredible amount of energy being put out there. I think a lot of my decision making, it just bypasses the brain and the heart, and it's just the stomach. I think that drives a lot of my.
Yeah.
So you've obviously been a visionary type from the get go, and an entrepreneur from the get go, and that can be a lonely process for some people. Entrepreneurs, particularly ethical entrepreneurs, they start to feel isolated, like no one else understands the journey that they're on. Um, is that something that you've had to deal with over the past 20 to 30 years? And if it has been, how have you dealt with it? And also, if not, how have you avoided it?
Yeah, that's a good question. There is, well, one thing, by being, a real ethical and giving company, it has connected me to 50 organizations around the state of Michigan, from Flow to Groundworks to the Michigan League of Conservation Voters, and to the governor, to our senators, who, because of our giving and how connected we are to so many issues in Michigan, I'm working with them. I just signed off on a letter today and spoke to the governor's office, on line 5. And so I do have, while I may not have as many people in the business community, or Chamber of Commerce, comrades, I have this whole new network of nonprofits and just great people to spend time with. Beyond that, though, there are quite a few and a growing number of businesses that are really putting their word out there on issues, their brand out there on issues. The Great Lakes Business Network, which I've just talked about, was working on line 5. The Shepler's Ferry to Crystal Mountain Resort. There's so many good businesses out there that are doing great things, as well.
Excellent. So we've got some great questions from the folks who are tuning in. So one of them from Michelle. is about your core values. And could you describe your core values in detail and how they show up throughout your business? You mentioned them a little bit, but if you could maybe give some specific examples.
Okay, life, liberty, beaches, and pie. Life stands for local, and the key things in local are cherries and northern Michigan. And so cherries are the greatest of all the fruit. All bow to the cherry. And northern Michigan is the greatest place to live, you know. So anybody that you know, that's what we spend our time doing, talking about how great cherries are and how great northern Michigan is, and that's life. Liberty is, you know, it's more an internal value, but it's giving every one of our employees the freedom, you know, and to use their own intuition and to connect with the customers. So if it's that customer's birthday, hey, here's a gift for you, or anything they could do to lift spirits, you know. And for our company to go from good to great, it's going to take each of our employees working individually, coming up with their own ways to overcome, you know, to get us to the next level. So that's liberty. Beaches is one of my favorites, and it really just expresses, you know, have fun, at the same time be good, you know. Like a beach is this balance between the land and the water, and for us, beaches is this balance between having fun, you know, enjoying your work, but also striving to be your best. And somewhere right in the middle there is where we want you, in there between having fun and doing your best. And then pie, of course, we gratefully share the earth's abundance. And there are two ways to look at, you know, things, you know, and look at money alone. That you can say that all the money is in a chest and we're all fighting over it, that rare amount of money just, you know, in this treasure chest. Or you can look at the money as it's just flowing and everywhere. It grows on trees and there's enough for everybody. And that's for sure the way Cherry Republic looks at things. And it is best expressed with pie, that there is plenty for everyone and it's for ours to share. You know, so that's it. Life, liberty, beaches, and pie.
They shouldn't really be revolutionary values, particularly pie, and thinking in terms of abundance rather than, you know, a finite supply of resources and generosity. But yeah, evidence shows that those are not ubiquitous values, not yet, anyway. So lots of questions related to how you got started, you know, why you decided to invest a little bit of money in t-shirts, how you grew over time, how you choose your locations now. Are you looking to move into larger urban areas? It's going to be hard to encapsulate all of these in one meta question, but are there any principles that have guided your development of the business over time to know if, you know, a new location or a new product is right?
Yeah, there's been well, you know what? I'll tell you one of our secret values, and that's we journey. Okay, and journey stands for we look to grow our company because we find that through the challenges of growing our company and taking on new stores or new areas or new departments, we have to overcome, and to overcome, we have to grow as individuals. All right. So company growth leads to personal growth. And that's the journey my staff and I are on. We're hand in hand, walking, climbing the mountain, striving, trying to do better. And every chance we can, we see these open spaces where we can spread our wings and fly. Now, I know each of us likes to have more influence in the world. So one of our reasons we grow is so that we can have, you know, when we were just in Glen Arbor, we would influence Glen Arbor. And then we were in Traverse City and Charlevoix, and now we were having more influence across the north. Those downstate stores are so we can have a bigger positive influence across this whole state. we haven't decided whether we're going to leave the Michigan and do some stores beyond. But if we do, it's because, we want to have a greater influence in the Midwest, for our giving and for our, meeting good issues. We haven't, don't have a store in Detroit, but we know we want to have a store in Detroit, so we can spread our goodwill in that town too. And we were really close just before the pandemic. We were lining up a store, and then we put it on hold, because of the shutdown.
So you're saying Cherry Republic Warsaw or Cherry Republic Istanbul is not out of the question in the next couple of years?
Yeah, we were looking really closely at Cherry Republic in Taiwan, in Taipei. Asia just loves, cherries themselves. That's where they originally came from. And also they just love good American brands. So we thought we'd fit in perfectly. But eventually I had young kids and I didn't want to spend so much time, 12 hours in flights and jet lag and all that.
No, that's time all spent away from family and dunes. That might not be the right direction to go. So we've got a number of other great questions, but I also want to keep on track with our time limit for folks that have to run. So Bob, if there are people that want to reach out to you with other questions, what's the best way for them to do that?
Oh, shoot, bob@cherryrepublic.com. I'm happy to come on again if you have a chance.
Yeah, absolutely. And if folks want to follow along with Cherry Republic, what are some of the best ways they can do that?
Well, we send out a weekly newsletter, email newsletter, and at the end of it, every week I write 3 paragraphs of just my life, and then it kind of attaches to the blogs that come on and our giving and such. So it's a great way to stay involved. You're signing up for that weekly email, the Orchard Report, we call it.
And then if you're visiting Northern Michigan, I'd highly encourage everybody to stop by the flagship operation in Glen Arbor. But they're all over the place. You just walk long enough, you'll find a Cherry Republic shop.
Mm-hmm.
3 quick ways you can stay connected with Good Impacts and our work. You can obviously visit our website, goodimpacts.com. You can also sign up for our weekly newsletter, or feel free to drop me a line at nick@goodimpacts.com. Bob, anything else we should tell the fine folks before we call it a day?
Oh, just wishing everybody a great day. And, life, liberty, beaches, and pie are things that we want the whole, values that we want like everybody to use, because we know if what those values have done for the success of my personally and for my company. And I truly believe that people live those values, that they will have lots of success and happiness in their life too.
Excellent. All right. Thanks, everybody. Talk to you next time.